There's a little bit more. So welcome to the Little Bit More podcast here. I don't even know what edition this is. I was going to say this is the...
We'll just call it part 2 of Somewhere in the Mount. I don't know.
Part 2.
Part 2. And also, these microphones are absolutely just a facade today.
Yeah. We're recording without our producer.
So
Max,
that's why you didn't hear anything when I... Yeah.
Because they just had a baby.
Yeah.
So...
Congratulations, Emma and Max.
Yep. And so we're recording old-fashioned with which is new-fashioned with an iPad.
Just an iPad, so.
But the microphones here are just make it look like we're cool.
Yeah. So we just jumped into the Salt and Light, and this is coming off of the first 12 verses, and that was the first week of the series. Is Jesus is talking about character over conduct, and I think oftentimes we pull these little segments of the Sermon on the Mount, and we just go ahead and preach that little section, but without any context, conduct kind of runs the show. But I think what Jesus is trying to help us understand is the identity piece and the character piece, and it's still incredibly evident in just these couple verses. So 13 through 16, although it's not a very large passage, it takes a large punch.
I love that you're talking about this so much every week, though. But I think this is huge for our Christian faith, is character over conduct. So much, I think we talked about this last week, so much about what other faiths, other religions are, it's all conduct.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Yeah. But that's not the point of this at all. So the character thing, I love that you're honing in on that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's most people's definition, even of Christianity.
Oh, for sure.
And that's why some people won't submit to the authority of Christ, is because it seems like a bunch of do's and don'ts.
And you're never going to be able to do enough, which is, it's just so freeing to be able to live a life like this.
Yeah.
Let's see what our character's saying about us instead of our conduct.
Yeah, so there's just a couple of things that I want to highlight in this passage. So in verse 13, it says, "You are the salt of the earth." And then if you go to 14, it says, "You are the light of the world." And then, it says, "But what if the salt loses its saltiness?" And then it talks about a city on a hill and that we shouldn't hide it. And oftentimes we'll focus on, oh no, like we shouldn't do these things. But before we even get to that, there's this massive piece, and we can miss it. It says that you are. So if you go to the "you are" in both scenarios, that you are the salt and you are the light. If you are something, that is a noun. Like, you are this, or you are that. So there's this identity piece that Lee Houts, as a follower of Jesus, is salt and he is light. It is your identity. It's been given to you. And the crazy thing about it is, you didn't pay for it. You didn't earn it. It's not like a loyalty card that you get from a gas station or a gym, where you can move up in levels and at some point you will be salt and light. No, it is given to you as your identity.
That's really cool.
You are salt, you are light. Well, what happens if you don't live up to that identity? The passage is clear. And that's the other thing. Like, if I just took this passage and I just wanted you to circle a couple things, it would be the "you are's." So there's 2 "you are's," and then I would have you circle the word "if" in verse 13. "But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and to be trampled on by man." So those pieces, to truly understand this, if it's lost, well, how did it get lost? You're not doing the John 15 principle. The John 15 principle is, if you remain in me, I will remain in you. If you remain in the salt will remain in you. If you remain in the light will remain in you. Well, who's the light?
Jesus. Good church answer.
There's another passage in the Gospels. So I believe it's John 8:12. I might be dyslexic. No, it is 8:12. It's not 12:8. John 8:12. It talks about that I am the light. My followers will also shine that light.
Mm-hmm. Sidebar, special shout out to kids ministries everywhere, especially Jana and Val. They do an amazing job here. What are the 2 songs you learned as a kid? First off,
Light of the world.
Yeah, Jesus loves me.
Jesus loves
and this little light of mine.
This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine.
I've been singing that song this whole podcast because they get stuck in there.
They get stuck there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even my 2-year-old knows those songs. He sings along with us.
Yeah, I love it. So good job, ministry. Keep it up.
Yeah. So the URs and this is a really good kind of test for us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you can put your name in there. Am I the salt? Am I the light?
Mm-hmm.
It's a yes or no question.
Yeah.
It's not I was the salt once, or I was the light one time.
Mm-hmm.
No, you are not. That's really the piece in which we're talking about. So it's not like, okay, I went on a mission trip and I was, past tense, I was the salt and light. No, you are.
Yeah.
Current. You either are or you are not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the piece that I think sometimes we have to unlearn and relearn because we have lost that understanding that we are.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece too is that if you are the salt, okay, what are you doing with the salt? Now there is the conduct piece, is that we're adding salt to something that does not already have salt. We're adding light to something that does not already have light. So understanding that our identity is not for ourselves, but for the world that needs salt and for the world that needs light.
And that's the so that.
The so that. Yeah. And it's interesting. We talked about this a little bit in staff meeting, and there's a couple of staff members that kind of struggled with this word "and" at the very end. In the same way, let your light shine before man, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
It could have said, so that they will see your Father in heaven. But it says, and.
Yeah.
That people...
It's going to happen.
Yeah, people are going to recognize your good deeds, and they are going to worship your Father who is in heaven. So one of the interns came up to me and said, well, if this whole Sermon on the Mount thing is about character and not about your conduct, why does Jesus use the word good deeds?
Mm-hmm.
I said, that's an excellent question.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the answer is, much like what Jim Belier says often, you can't give what you don't have. If you are the salt, if you are the light, your conduct will follow that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's an assumption on verses 1 through 12 that those are true about you.
Mm-hmm.
So your good deeds will follow who you are. Because he's already said earlier in the passage that if the salt has lost its saltiness, what is it good for?
Yeah.
You might as well put it at the end of the road with a free sign on it as trash, and no one's going to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to pick that up.
Yeah.
Because it's literally trash.
Mm-hmm.
So the and piece is interesting, that we have to remain humble.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the first
it's
pieces
the heart condition.
Yes.
If you're doing this for the glory, obviously your heart condition, your mindset's going to be different than if you're just doing this because the Lord's called you to do it.
Yeah. What is the first Beatitudes? Blessed are the poor in spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So if we understand humility,
mm-hmm.
and we understand that it's about our character, and that we will be like, yeah, I am honored that people see that in me because they see Jesus.
Exactly.
Whoa.
That's a beautiful thing. Not like, oh, I shouldn't be getting all this glory. Like, no, man,
Now,
receive
I'm
that.
glad
Like,
they compliment me because they see Jesus in me.
that's like, man, I'm on the right track.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be like complimenting a chef or a cook of going, man, the flavor of this is great.
And here's what I always think. I'm an encourager by heart, okay? This is just how I just do it. If I see it, I say it. So, like, this is how I look at it. Like, let's use the chef as an example. Chef's back there cooking stuff. He thinks he's doing a great job. He probably is. But when you get one of those compliments to the chef, like, hey, you're doing an awesome job. You know what that does to the chef? That gives him verification, like, man, all right, and fires him up a little bit. You know what I mean? I think as Christians, sometimes when people see that in us, I think that's it. Learn to receive those compliments, not to pump up your ego, but to say, all right, I'm on the right track following the Lord here. They're seeing Jesus in me. And that's an awesome thing, man. That should fire you up even more, and not like be like, oh man, there people are seeing me, and that just that gets me excited.
Yeah.
Learn to encourage others, but also to receive compliments from people.
Yeah, so I've never done this before. This is the first time I've ever done this. But for my birthday, we went and got tomahawk steaks.
I've heard those are amazing.
It was, honestly, it was like this big, no joke. And every single bite was an experience. I've never had anything like it before.
Yeah.
It was unreal. At the very end of the meal, our waiter asked if he could do anything else for us. And I said, this is kind of a weird request, but can I talk to the chef?
No way.
So the chef comes out, and I think he thought like I was gonna like
normally they get ripped up about that.
I just shook his hand and said, "Thank you. This was amazing."
I love that.
And he kind of like just dropped his head a little bit, because you could just tell he was a very humble person, that he took a lot of pride in what he did. But it's kind of like that moment. It's like, thank you. This was an incredible experience. I saw something in you, even though I didn't know who you were.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it should be like when we're the salt and the light.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man. I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, as we're going through the Sermon on the Mount, like we're going to be taking these smaller chunks, just a couple verses at a time, but there's so much significance in this. And it's like, well, my light won't really shine that. Like, what's the point of just this individual light? Once again, we are meant to be communal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could get, a size like Grable, a church like Grable, if you could get, 600 or 700 people shining that they understand that their identity is salt and light, the impact that light and that salt would have on this community.
A little light and a little salt, even if it's just a little, goes a long way in a dark or bland world.
Kirk, our maintenance guy, during staff meeting, we were going through this passage, and he was talking about how he was at Mammoth Cave. And how if like you just get a phone light or something, and how it would just illuminate this massively dark place. Obviously, no windows, no ability to see any natural light. Just a little bit of light illuminates so much. So if you're working in a place that has no believers, you're the only one, or you're the only believer in your family, being just who God has created you to be, and taking on that new identity that He has offered you, and you have received it. Once again, we didn't earn it, we didn't buy it. All we do is receive the new identity. Those things can illuminate so much by just being the salt and just being the light of who God has called you.
You already are it.
Yes,
we already talked about
you
that.
are.
Now be it.
Yes,
Do it.
yes. Yeah. So that's just a little bit more. I know usually these are a little bit longer, but I want us to be able just to sit and to contemplate these things. Allow the Spirit to minister to us and ask those questions. Am I the salt? Am I the light? You either are or you are not. It's not, am I doing this? It's, am I this?
Yeah. And if you can't say I am, there's a way to path to that. Right. You can get right back on track with the Lord just by saying,
yeah.
All right.
And it comes with just like any relationship. If you have, drifted away in a relationship, time spent with that person can go a long way. So spending time in prayer, spending time in His Word, spending time in community with other people, praying, even if you feel like you're not good at it, that's not the goal.
Yeah.
Perfection is not the goal. We say that all the time. Perfection is not the target. Maturity, growth, obedience, those are the targets.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that failure doesn't still happen. It does.
For sure.
So, yeah, it's just a little bit more.
I'm excited. I'm excited
where
for this
we're
study,
going.
man. It's exciting to be part of this.
Yep. And it's what it means to be a holistic disciple of Jesus. So as we journey through this, we'll continue to talk about these principles, but the verses 1 and 12 bleed through the whole thing. So we got to keep coming back to the foundation. Come back to the foundation.
Yeah, and if you're watching this or listening to the sermons or joining us on weekends, if you ever have any questions, like we're open and available to talk and just talk more about this, because we're all on this journey together.
Yeah.
So let us know.
Love it. That's just a little bit more.
See ya.
Have a great week.